It is with great pleasure that I introduce, I mean, in my opinion, I think many more, as a children's television icon and legend, Steve Burns. You've got a whole couch to yourself, so take a nap if you like. Good to see you. Yeah, get comfortable.
How you guys doing?
So tell me about your childhood.
Well, I was born in East Austria.
But
I was not born in Austria, by the way.
we were born in the same state, Pennsylvania.
Where are you from?
Pittsburgh.
I know that. I already knew that.
You did know that. So let's start at your childhood. Surely your childhood ambition was not, I'm going to grow up and host a children's television show. You must have had other ambitions that you were pursuing. And you're an accomplished musician and actor, but what did you want to be when you were a kid?
Well, I think when I was a little kid, you know, the truth is, my mom reminded me of this recently. I wanted to be a clown. But a very specific clown, not like a birthday clown or anything. I wanted to be like Charlie Chaplin. Something like that, Buster Keaton. I was really into that sort of, you know, Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, they almost looked sad while they were being hilarious. I loved that. I still love that stuff. But I used to dress up like Charlie Chaplin all the time and like do all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, I think I wanted to be a writer when I was in junior high. I remember wanting that. And then when I was in high school, I was accepted into a scholarship arts program for theater and for writing. And they said I could do both, but when I got there, they made me pick one, and there were cuter girls in the theater. So then I was in this theater program, and it completely changed, rearranged my brain. I really got into it then. And so then I started exploring acting, and I moved to New York City to be, you know, kind of a pretentious, short guy, dangerous actor from the 70s, like Al Pacino or Dustin Hoffman or something like that. And then I became the dude on Blue's Clues, so which is much more like the Charlie Chaplin thing, I guess.
So what was that path, though, that led to Blue's Clues? Because you're in New York, you're an actor. I assume a struggling actor, because that's the only kind of actor there is in New York, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was really early on that I got that job. I mean, I remember it could have gone one of two ways. I was up for two roles. I was up for this Blue's Clues thing. It looked like I might get it, and I also was up for a series regular role on a TV show called Homicide, which was really gritty, incredibly well-written show. Very Al Pacino, right? So I was up for these two things, and Blue's Clues was the one that worked out. Yeah. So it could have gone a very different way. That was all in the same week, too. I remember that. And, yeah. And I didn't expect it to go anywhere. I didn't expect it to... When we shot the pilot for Blue's Clues, I thought, oh, well, this is weird and, like, really weird and cool and really smart, and it's not going anywhere. There's no way this is going to work. It's too bizarre. Children were not going to talk to me through a screen. It's like the Rocky Horror Children's Show or something. I was like, it's just too far out there. And Angela Santamera, who created the show, was like, her ideas are too smart, you know, for TV. It's just not going to be a thing. And then it aired and went to number one. I was like, oh shit, okay, I guess we're doing this. I guess this is what we do now, you know.
So, and those are two very distinct roles.
There's kids here, and I said that. Sorry.
That's okay. Homicide and Blue's Clues, and you were auditioning for both, or looked like you were going to get both. Physically, those are very different looks. So, as you were auditioning for Blue's Clues, what was the look you went in with? I'm curious.
The real is I didn't know what I was doing that day. I thought the only reason that Blue's Clues, that I was the host of Blue's Clues, because I also accidentally at the time had a voiceover career, right? Because Blue's Clues didn't pay anything. Right? I would not have been able to afford to do that show, but I had this other kind of job where I did the voice in commercials and stuff. You've all heard me your whole lives in commercials and just didn't know it. And so I thought Blue's Clues was an audition to be the voice of an animated character. I thought it was a voiceover audition. And the truth is, if I had known that it was to be a guy on a kid show, I probably wouldn't have gone. That's the truth. I mean, it wasn't just because I would thought, there's no way I'd be any good at that. I would have thought that, I would just be not qualified to be on a kid show, But when I got in the room, there was a camera, and I was like, oh, I better do something. And I just kind of pulled Steve out of my butt in the thing. But I was wearing, there is a tape of it somewhere, and I refuse to watch it. But what I remember is I was wearing like dirty jeans and a dirty Fugazi T-shirt. I had long hair. I had an earring, and I had a pack of Camel Lights in my pocket. That's the truth. So I was like, I don't belong in this room. There's literally no way these people are going to be interested in me. And I remember the creators of the show were there, and they weren't much older than me. They were like 25 years old. Imagine that. Imagine creating Blue's Clues when you're 25. Oh God, the little kid just left because I said SHIT and talked about cigarettes. Oh God. Mom's like, no, it's not what happened. But, yeah, so I remember they called me. They're like, your audition was really weird, but we liked it. Can you come back tomorrow, and do you have a clean shirt?
Do you remember what it was specifically that they liked about your approach to the character?
I do, yeah. The script, I didn't want to be there. So I was like, what is this script? And I looked at it, and it read to me like The Price is Right, sort of, but for kids. It's like, which one is the triangle? Do you know? Great job. You guessed it. And it was like that, right? It was very much a game show for kids. But what I immediately liked about the script was that it was to the camera, and I was talking to the camera. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I have no idea why, but I just got really close to the camera, like way too close to the camera. And I made it uncomfortably sincere and like almost like it was a secret between you and me. And I was like, which one is the triangle? Do you know? Like, and it was like really conspiratorial, and then I paused for way too long until it felt really strange in the room. And I was like, this is cool. This is weird. I like this, Because honestly, I wouldn't have made these big choices in the audition. It was just because I was like, this is a throwaway. There's no way these people would ever cast. There's no way I would ever be cast on a children's television show. So I was just trying stuff. Yeah. And right away, I remember in the audition when I was talking to the camera, I felt, and this is a true story, I felt something. It moved me a little. Like it was like an emotional thing for me somehow. It's very difficult to talk about and explain in a way that makes sense. Oh, good, she came back. Good. But I felt something in that silence that felt very real, even though it was a kiddie show thing. And I built that whole character off of that little feeling, and that's what I would always go back to. And that little feeling was you guys, really. Like, ultimately, it was that connection to the camera in that moment that felt important in the audition, I guess.
There was an authenticity to your hosting, and it was so distinct from children's television hosts who had come before. How much of that was a very conscious decision on your part and on the staff and the writers that really helped you develop that character further and that approach, which was unique?
Well, Blue's Clues was created by incredibly brilliant child development specialists. One that we know together,
Alice Wilder, who's
yeah.
amazing.
She did all the research. But there weren't a lot of acty people. There were none on set. There were no like theater, film, performance director people around. No one. So I kind of did all the character stuff myself. I had to. It was all on me. I just kind of did it in private, There was no one really there shaping that so much. You say authentic, Steve was a pretty out there character, like he would freak out when the mail showed up, and he was pretty insane, and he didn't know the difference between shapes and colors. You know what I mean? So I hear what you're saying.
There's a sincerity,
right?
that
I
is
always
very real.
think, I call it human ballast to this really kind of extreme character. And what I was basing that on, without really knowing it, was kids' TV stuff that I liked, which was Fred Rogers, but was also everything Frank Oz ever did. Right? Bert. Something's up with Bert. For sure. Like, Bert does not move comfortably through the world. Like, you can imagine Bert at work. Like, all of this stuff. You can imagine all of that. Bert is more human on Sesame Street than Maria, in a lot of ways, in my opinion. Same with Grover, right? And so I was basing it on all of these kind of extreme characters that also had all of these extremely real human qualities to them. Yeah. But I say all this stuff like I was some 21-year-old brilliant man with all of these ideas. I was just like, oh God, what do I do? I was just pulling stuff out of my butt, really. But those were my influences, I guess.
But you never talked down to the children. In fact, I would even say you would allow them to feel that maybe they're a little smarter than you at times.
That 100%. That's exactly right.
And that was very different than a lot of other. I think of Captain Kangaroo as I loved Captain Kangaroo, but it was a tad condescending in tone. Whereas you, Mr. Rogers, and certain other ones had that just real connection with your audience, that you allowed them time to be heard, even though they were talking to a TV set, that we felt listened to by you. Is that a big part of, you think, the success? That
Both of those things are a huge part of the success of the connection of that show. I mean, all children's television, or almost all children's television, speaks to the camera, right? That's a convention and a trope of children's television. But what we did that I think was kind of radical is we listened to it. That was new. And the other thing we did was Steve needed your help, right? Like I said, he had trouble with shapes and colors. You were the one, he needed you. None of those clues would have been found without you. Not a single puzzle would have been solved without you. I was terrible at that game. I only ever found one clue, right? You did all the heavy lifting, and that was by design. That was explicitly on purpose. From an act, I don't know if we have any acty people in here, but I was just out of acting school, so I was doing all this pretentious acting stuff with it. And one exercise in acting is called a status exercise. And it's like, okay, in any scene, one person has higher status than the other, right? In any scene. And so it's like, oh, well, the home viewer is cooler than me, and I'm trying to impress them. And I'm so excited that they're here today, but I don't want to be like, I don't want to really freak out because then I'll look stupid, so I just gotta be cool, And when I would ask for help, I was always a little afraid that you might say no, because of that status shift. So you're 100% right, it was the opposite of condescending. Yeah. It was an elevation of the home viewer.
Wow, that's amazing. When Blue's Clues aired, it was just a shift in the way children's television would be for the next, decade at least, and can even continue to stay. It was a major shift, but it was also a shift in the way children's shows were produced technically, and that you were acting against a character that wasn't there, a set that wasn't there. You mentioned your admiration of Chaplin and Keaton, who were great masters of pantomime and physical comedy. How much did you have to pull from that? Did you pull from that to sort of go, I'm acting with someone who's there, so you're essentially doing a lot of pantomime?
Well, I wanted to do a lot more physical comedy, right? Like, that's what I really wanted to do, but I couldn't, because imagine this room, everything in this room is painted blue. The floor, the walls, and the walls are curved, so there are no shadows there, so that it just looks like a blue void behind us, literally nothing. We were shooting Blue's Clues on desktop Macintosh for next to no money. When I say that, I mean next to no money. So typically what you would then do is you would put little pieces of tape on the floor, and then you'd paint those out later. We couldn't afford to do that. So I didn't have anything, no points of reference, except the camera. So I would run around and talk to a bar of soap, and then I would run around and talk to a salt shaker, and the dog would run around, and I'd say bye, and I'd go around the whole room, and I'd have to be here, and if I was here, it was wrong. And we'd have to do it again. And so I couldn't, flip out physically. It was very rare that they would let me kind of really do a lot of physical comedy.
Yeah.
But now, green screen technology, whenever I watch the making of Star Wars and stuff, and I see Ewan McGregor complaining, I'm like, bro, you got no idea. You got 30 people in green suits telling you what to look at, and sticks with tennis balls on it. You got no idea, man. Wow. How hard this could be.
So we both have a shared love and admiration for Mr. Rogers, yeah. And I know you had said you'd never gotten to meet him, but I kind of want you to know he would be so proud of you and what you've done.
What a lovely thing to say to somebody.
He truly would, and but Fred Rogers set an impossibly high standard as a human being. Just as a human being. And when you're a children's entertainer, as you were for so many years, that's tough to hold up in society. You're a real grown-up. You're a real human being that does grown-up things, that you're a musician as well. What difficulties did you face out in the world for public expectations of who would be? Did you face any difficulties in that? I know you're extremely grateful for that opportunity, but what difficulties did you face simply being an adult as a children's entertainer?
I call it the Fred Rogers problem, right? Because he did set an impossibly high bar. That guy was the greatest of all time. He's the best to ever do it, the best there ever was. He's the Bruce Springsteen of children's television. He should be on our money, probably. He was like a bodhisattva, holy man almost. And he reached through the television and held a generation's hand through their greatest fears, and he did that on purpose. He was basically doing the Gospels as a children's television show. It was his ministry. I was a neurotic actor who fell backwards into a TV show and said yes because I didn't want to be a waiter. Right? We're not the same. Whenever anyone says, oh, you're this generation's Fred Rogers, it is difficult for me to conceive of higher praise, and I appreciate that for the compliment that it is, but I take every opportunity to push back on it because I'm not that. I'm not that. I am very much not that. I am not exceptional in my wholesomeness. I'm a pretty nice guy, but I'm no more wholesome than anyone in this room. I'm deeply flawed and occasionally wonderful, just like everyone else in this room. And so where I would put Fred Rogers above, I am much more comfortable with everyone. I would say that I'm a fellow traveler on the struggle bus. I don't have advice. I don't have answers. all Steve ever had was questions, good questions. And that's where I'm at. And the Fred Rogers problem is that if your name on the show is the same as your name in life, then you must be that guy. And I'm not that guy. And I'm not Mr. Rogers. Of course I'm not. And I always worry that I'll disappoint people simply by being normal, because of that bar that I can't possibly live up to. I'm not even sure I'd want to, So I do take every opportunity just to say that that's not me. I'm not that. I get it. I get what you're saying, but I can't possibly be authentically me and not let people know that I'm not in that rarefied air of that guy who I admire endlessly.
What is, with that in mind, what is the most surprising place that we would turn on our TV or turn on the radio or something and we would go, wait, is that Steve? Is there something that is sort of...
There's a couple things.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever seen Young Sheldon?
Yeah.
I wrote and sing the theme song to that show. Also, you've heard me your whole lives on commercials and stuff. I'm currently the guy who says, Snickers satisfies. So I love that gets applause. It's two words that sometimes I say in a closet into a microphone. Snickers satisfies. Thanks, Steve. All right, see you later, guys.
In 2021, you returned for the 25th anniversary of Blue's Clues, specifically on Twitter to check in on us and reassure us, really, at a time when I think we all needed it, whether we grew up with you or not. My kids grew up with you. I did not, but I found that post, I was in tears just because it was so moving. How did that come about? What motivated that?
Blue's Clues was turned 25, and there's 3 hosts of Blue's Clues now. I'm definitely the best one, but there's 3. And no, I can't even do that. Those 2 guys have become some of my best friends in my life, and I take the piss out of them all the time. But they are wonderful people. Anyway, I'm still the best one. But they asked us to do shout-outs to the kids, and I was like, I don't want to talk to the kids. Those kids have no idea who I am, right? 4-year-olds have no idea who I am right now. But I'd love to talk to my friend, and that's what it was. And I didn't write it down. I just improv'd it. Yeah. Wow. And I was like, okay, how would I do this? I'm just going to scale up the conversation. It was always not condescending. It was always a care-driven conversation about things that mattered to both of us. That used to be graham crackers, right? Now it's COVID and student loans and the fact that everyone's mean to each other all the time. And it was a heavy moment. I felt heavy. And I think what happened is I needed connection and didn't know it. And so I was just reconnecting with you guys with this camera in a way that I hadn't done in 25 years. And again, no one expected that to be resonant. She's leaving again. No one expected that to resonate in any way, certainly not the way that it did. But it was very healing for me. People come up to me all day and tell me how that affected them. I want people to know how much it affected me. It was a surprise to me too.
I think that continues that theme and mission of it's wonderful how much you help us, but it's so rewarding to us as your fans and friends to be able to still help Steve. Steve still needs our help.
Totally. I'm a mess.
Did that at all lead now to your new work with Alive? Is that?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I have a podcast now called Alive with Steve Burns, and it's that. It's like, oh, can we just keep talking? Can we just keep doing this? And I always say, you know, there's like a trillion podcasts that you can listen to, but this is one that listens back. This is one that listens to you. I ask you questions throughout the podcast and leave quiet moments to think about them. And it's the hard stuff, you know. It's not even the hard stuff. It's the human stuff. It's death, sex, and taxes, and the future of truth, and you know, it's everything that matters. It's everything that makes us emotional in the modern world, you know, as friends. Because Blue's Clues was always that. Blue's Clues was always you and I, ride or die, running around our universe, looking for little bits of information that lead to greater understanding, and then we would sit down with intention and think about things and test our assumptions before we asserted our beliefs, which is a great thing to do now. And that's all it was. It was critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and joy. And that's what the podcast is.
That's wonderful. I have just one more question for you, but I want to ask if anybody has a question, if you want to line up at that microphone, you can start lining up now, and I'll be happy to take your questions there. Any special moments that have come out of the new podcast for you? You've gotten to interview some wonderful people, and any highlights so far?
I had a conversation with a hospice nurse about what is it to die? Like, what's happening in that moment? And she blew my mind. Her name's hospice nurse Julie. She's all over the internet. She's just an amazing soul. And she said something to me that changed my life. I said, you know, she basically said, you die how you lived. You know, I was like, oh, well, that's awfully heavy. So I'm going to die bald and neurotic. That's terrible. But that changed me, that thought. You know, if you die how you lived, how should you live? You know? And again, that's the kind of conversation. You have these conversations with people. And you get one nugget like that, and you're changed.
I right before we get to that, I have one last thing I want to ask you. I read in a quote that when you had left Blue's Clues, that you didn't want to end up being a host who was balding on children's television. As a bald children's television host,
look, I was fine to be bald on Blue's Clues. They weren't fine with it.
Oh, okay, that's.
And I looked in their eyes and said, they're going to put me in a wig. And I looked at the pants that they gave me, and I was like, there's no way this wig will have any dignity at all. So I was like, it's time to go.
Well, good. I'm glad to know that you're fine with being a bald children's television host.
No issue with that. Issue with the bad wig that was in my future.
That's wonderful.
That's a nice wig.
Yes.
Thank you.
Tell us your name and what's your question?
My name is Alex, and first of all, I just want to say how much of an honor it is to meet you. You were a big part of me and my sister's childhood. And I guess a question I have is, like, exactly how did you have any creative control on Blue's Clues?
I didn't want much. You know, I wanted them to leave Steve alone, and I wanted all of the control over Steve. But they used to ask me to write episodes. They used to ask, and I was like, no. It's what you guys do. This is working. You know, this is working. You guys do that, and I'll do my thing. And I trusted the brilliance of that curriculum. I looked at it as a teaching job, right? And I'm not a teacher. I'm not a child development specialist. So I left that to them, and I took care of my thing. When we did the reboot, I was all over it. I was writing, directing, producing, and it was so fun. I wish I had done it while I was on the show. But, yeah.
Wonderful. Hi.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi.
Oh crap, I just blanked.
You can remember it and then bounce back in if you want.
Yeah, you can just step off the side and jump back in.
Okay. The handy dandy notebook. I always liked whenever you were drawing in it. Did
Yeah.
you actually do those drawings?
Nope. Sorry.
Oh, dang it.
That was the hardest job on set. I tried it. I failed. We had talented animators who couldn't do it. You got to understand, they were hard to draw to begin with. We had very short amount of time to do it, and you had to hold the notebook here, and the camera was here, so your face was here, and you couldn't see yourself drawing it. It was almost impossible to do, and it was hard for us to find people who could do it. I wanted to, but I didn't have the chops.
Steve, tune
I
into
know.
my
I'm
show.
not going to lie.
Tune into my show, and I'll teach you how to draw.
Okay.
Okay, that's what we do. Hi.
Hi, I'm Peyton.
Hey, Peyton.
I am curious because I also really like your music. If you were to compare and contrast your creative process for acting versus your music, what is the difference between that creative innateness that you would bring to both versus your actual approach process?
What a great question, Peyton. I don't make much of a distinction between those things. I think it's all the same goop.
Yeah.
You know, and some days I wake up and it's music, and some days I wake up and it's something else. You know, and I think my process for the two has always been the same, which is make a huge mess.
Yeah.
And kind of sift through it and refine and refine and refine. I'm a big make a mess, throw it away, hate it, start over. You know, I have very little. I'm not a trained actor. I'm not a trained musician. I have no formalized process for any of it. So I think that's why. But I also really enjoy just making a big mess and going through it. Are you a musician?
I really am into music. I did my undergrad in directing and musical theater, so that's kind of my realm with actually executing music. But
Yeah, so you can't do it the way I do it.
yeah,
Yeah, you're a director.
yeah.
You're not allowed.
No, I start the creative process, and usually painting is where I make the mess, and then I hit that 70% through point, and I'm step away, don't trash it, and then come back to it later.
Oh, that's actual process. What's your favorite musical?
Oh God. I really like Bear, specifically a pop opera. They have a musical and a pop opera version. It's kind of dark. I like the really dark, gritty stuff.
Yeah, I like dark musicals too,
Yeah.
especially. Cool. Thanks for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would you ever do a Broadway musical?
I can't sing.
Okay.
They've
Answer
asked
that
me.
question.
They asked me. There have been a couple where I've kind of been in the mix, and they've brought me into rooms with pianos and been like, "Oh, you can't sing." I'm like, I told you.
Well, maybe write a Broadway musical.
Right.
There we go. Hi.
Hi, my name is Zephra, and I grew up watching you, so did my sister, and then my 7-year-old actually prefers your episodes.
That's right.
Yes. Because we weren't sure. If we were like, well, it's kind of dated, and I was like, we're dated, and she was like, no, I love Steve, and she was very excited.
Yeah, that's correct.
But
Yeah.
do you have a favorite episode? Do you have a favorite storyline?
Not. I mean, you got to keep in mind. I told you about the Blue Void. They are all the same episode to me.
Yeah.
They really are. When we recast Josh, the new guy, I was very involved in that process. So I watched all of Blue's Clues for the first time in my life. Most of those episodes I'd never seen, because I'm that guy. I can't watch what I do. And there were a couple of really good ones. I like episode 2, where I'm just doing the big bad wolf and the 3 little pigs. I think that's charming. I think that was kind of a really good example of Blue's Clues. And then there's one that is basically almost like a French farce, where it's like a cafe that we're doing, and there's all that kind of comedy that's really good. But I think my favorite episode I ever shot was one of the very last ones that ever happened. Was with Josh. It was called The Mystery of the Stolen Thinking Chair or something. And it was all 3 of us, the 3 hosts, getting to goof off. And that was the best time I ever had. But the rest of it all just kind of seems smushed together. And I like the one where I'm in outer space.
Well, I think you have a great singing voice, because we do still sing the male song. So I think you do a great job.
Well, see, I have a bad singing voice because I couldn't hit that last note.
No.
So I
It was
peeweed it.
perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Wow.
You guys look adorable.
Thank you. I told her that if she really loved me and wanted to be my favorite sibling, that she'd have to be magenta for me. I'm the favorite now. That's how she became the favorite. So I obviously grew up with you, but you were a theater kid as well. What's the favorite show that you've ever been in?
You know what's a great show that people just go, ugh, Our Town.
I was actually a director on Our Town.
That is a
Student director.
heartbreaking, powerful piece of absurdist theater that people don't give enough credit to. I think my favorite piece of theater I was ever in was Amadeus. Yeah. But Our Town is a good show. I reread it recently. So
It's a great one. Well, thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi, my name's Mary. And this
Mary,
Is Mary.
nice to meet you.
And this is kind of a silly question, but I thought of it when you said that you were the Snickers voiceover guy. So Snickers famously does the "You're not you when you're hungry."
Yeah, that's me.
Who would who would Steve turn into when he's grumpy and hungry?
Who do I what?
Who do you
would
turn
Steve
into?
turn into?
If you're grumpy and
Oh,
hungry, who would you?
Mary. Here's the deal. Like, I play the happiest man in North America, right? The whole time I was on Blue's Clues, I was dealing with undiagnosed severe clinical depression. A lot of people don't know that. I have always, my entire life, been a little dark. I think it's part of why Blue's Clues worked. But I am often grumpy. I am often pessimistic. So this is going to sound really cheesy, but the person I kind of turn to is Steve.
Okay.
Because I had to practice wonder while I was depressed. I had to practice finding enthusiasm and joy while I was not feeling that way. And it was valuable to me. And Steve kind of taught me to look for the light a little in those moments. That was a deeper answer than you were looking for.
I know. I was thinking it was going to be a goofy question, but you.
Yeah,
gave
you said
a
this is a silly
beautiful
question. I was like,
answer.
well, let me tell you something, Mary. Have a seat.
No, that was perfect. Thank
But
you so
yeah,
much.
okay. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi, my name's Evan. Hold on. Hi, my name's Evan.
Evan,
So-
how are you?
All right,
Nice to meet
yourself. So, between your departure from Blue's Clues and the 20th anniversary, did you do any more TV or movie acting?
Not really. You know, people always ask me if I was pigeonholed. That show opened many more doors for me than it closed. I was just kind of done when I left that. I mean, I'm talking about the depression, right? So I was young on that show. I didn't have any sort of replenishing strategy for what I was doing, so I felt kind of on empty when I left that show. And kind of the last thing I wanted to do was be on television, you know? The last thing I wanted to do was perform in that way. So I haven't done much of that, really. I did some theater afterwards. I do little bit stuff here and there, but I haven't really felt compelled to be kind of on TV, you know?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Dee, and I was actually the first person in your line yesterday.
Oh,
for
hey,
your
how have you
autograph.
been?
Good, how are you? So my question is, there were so many guest stars on Blue's Clues, like Lisa Kudrow, who was the baby doctor, and
Not my episode, but yes.
and Marley Martin.
Mhm.
But I want to know is, how was it to have Rue from the Golden Girls play your grandma?
She was my favorite guest star. She was such a badass. She was hilarious and like brash and so professional. We knew this was royalty, and we were so lucky to have her. And she was my favorite to work with for sure.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name's Lainey. You said that you have finally watched your episodes of Blue's Clues. So who would you say is your favorite animated character besides Blue?
Mr. Salt.
That
I just related to Mr. Salt. It was like, I always felt like talking to him, like, hey, whose house is this? Like, Does Steve have a mortgage? Does he drive a car? Like, you have children. Is this your house? Like, who's in charge, man? He'd be like, I don't know. It's also confusing. We do everything the dog says. It's so strange. I don't know, Steve. I always felt like we would commiserate, you know?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Is there a blooper reel that we'll never see?
There was an associate producer whose job it was to destroy my outtakes. No, ever since I was a little kid, I have like a potty mouth. I always have, ever since I was little. And there I would be like, you know, and they'd be like, burn that, burn that, burn that.
That's great. Hello.
Hi, my name is Grace. So you said you worked like in a big blue void. So did you see
My whole life.
Yeah. Same, I get it. So as you were doing that, did you get any reference photos of what the characters would be like, or did you have to just imagine that? And if you like imagined it, did it look anything to what the product is?
What a great question. Sorta. Do you guys know what a storyboard is?
Yeah.
Okay, we had storyboards where they were just little line drawings, stick figures, basically. And so I would have an idea, and I would look at the storyboards, and we got good at it fast. You know who's great at it is Josh. He showed up like Neo in The Matrix. He was like, I understand how this works. And he was just really good at it. Dono and I kind of were like, but so I had a reference, and it looked nothing like that. When I'd see it animated, it's like, that's not what I saw in my brain at all, you know? So we had very little to go off of. And it, in some ways, I wanted as little information as possible. You know, just like what I would always do, they eventually caught on to me, is they would want me to be here talking to the water bottle that isn't here, right? Yeah. And you look at it, look at it, and look at it, and if I did that, oh, that would be wrong, so I got to remember to look at it there. So I would just go up to the camera, and if I look back, it's always right. So I was like, everything's up stage. Oh, so the dog's over there, huh? I'm not looking in the same place twice, and you don't know. So that's what I would always do. That's how I'd get around it. But
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We can take one more question, please.
I'm sorry, guys. I should have gone faster.
Thank you.
Mine's not really a question. It was more of the rumor that you weren't with us anymore.
True.
So I'm just grateful that you are still here and the world is a better place with you in it.
I'm glad I'm here too, and thank you so much for that.
We're all glad you're here.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're all here. I always say this. I know intellectually that this is a room full of strangers, but because of the nature of what we used to do, this always feels like speaking to an old friend. And so it means as much to me as it could possibly mean to you. So thank you.
One last question. What's next? What do you want to do next?
I don't know, man. I think I want to be like a vaguely Buddhist goat farmer in the middle of the woods. Just, you know, I like solitude. I like quiet. I've just always been kind of an alone-y sandwich, you know. I like peace and serenity, and I'm going to do this podcast thing for a while, but I think I'm writing a book, but I don't know. I don't know what's next. Something peaceful and quiet, I hope.
Can I ask one favor? Can you check in on us every few years?
Oh, I'll continue doing that.
Yeah, we need that.
No problem.
I'm going to ask everybody to stick around for just a second. We're going to do a stage photo. So if you'd like to be photoed, we'll just have you stand up, and we're going to be setting up to take the photo. Okay. Thank you so much. This has been such a blast. Thank you. Oh, thank you.